Ginger is one of the best crops to grow at home, not just for its amazing health benefits, but also for how much money it saves you, especially these days. But if your plants keep growing tall leaves and tiny roots, you're not alone. So in this video, I'll walk you through the 10 reasons why this happens and how to fix each one so that you can have endless ginger produce. Also, make sure to stick around until the end for a bonus tip that will help you grow larger, healthier ginger roots, as well as keep your plants producing longer. The first reason your ginger might be growing lots of leaves but not much root is the quality of the planting material. Ginger isn't grown from seeds like most plants. Instead, it's grown from pieces of its root, often called rhizomes, that have small buds or eyes. Those buds are what sprout into new plants. If the root pieces you plant are old, dried out, or missing healthy buds, your ginger will struggle right from the start. You might get leafy growth from stored energy inside the root, but since the piece was weak, it won't have enough strength to produce a large, new root system. The best way to start ginger is with fresh organic roots that have multiple visible buds. You can find these at garden centers or sometimes at grocery stores that carry organic produce. Avoid roots that look shriveled or moldy, and don't use ones treated with growth inhibitors. They'll never sprout properly. Before planting, soak your ginger root in water for a few hours. This rehydrates the tissues and wakes up the dormant buds, giving them a head start. Once planted, those little eyes will swell and sprout into new shoots within a few weeks, as long as they have warmth and moisture. Another key tip is to cut the ginger root into smaller sections, each with at least 1 or 2 healthy buds, and let the cut ends dry for a day before planting. This forms a small protective layer that prevents rot once it's in the soil. Planting whole large chunks can waste energy, while tiny budless pieces might never grow at all. Think of your planting material as the foundation for the entire plant. Healthy, fresh roots will give you stronger shoots, a better start, and most importantly, more new ginger forming underground. If you've ever planted ginger and noticed it grew tall leaves but produced only a few skinny roots, poor planting material was probably the reason. It's a mistake many gardeners make without realizing how much of a difference quality rhizomes can make. So for your next batch, take a little extra time to source fresh, healthy ginger roots with visible eyes. Soak them, plant them in warm, moist soil, and give them the right conditions to sprout strong. That one simple change can make the difference between a disappointing harvest and a bucket full of beautiful, plump ginger roots. Good planting material sets you up for success before you even fill your pot with soil. Start with strong roots, and your plants will reward you later with big, flavorful harvests. The second reason your ginger gives you lots of leaves but very little usable root is container size. Ginger grows from thick, horizontal stems, so it spreads sideways first, then fattens up. If the pot is too narrow or too shallow, the plant runs out of room. When that happens, it keeps pushing leaves because it cannot comfortably expand underground. Aim for a container that is wide, with real depth. A sturdy pot that is at least 12 to 18 inches deep and as wide as you can manage gives the rhizomes room to run. Width matters more than height for ginger, but you still need enough depth to keep the developing rhizomes covered and insulated from heat swings. Always choose a pot with several drainage holes so excess water can escape. Soil volume is just as important as dimensions. A cramped container limits the total amount of airy, nutrient-rich mix that can support growth. When space is tight, ginger diverts energy into foliage, not storage tissue, because it is competing for limited oxygen and nutrients. A larger pot holds more breathable soil, which means stronger underground expansion and thicker, heavier harvests. Use a loose, well-draining mix. Think fluffy, not heavy. A blend that includes quality potting mix with some added perlite or pine bark fines keeps the pore spaces open, so oxygen reaches the rhizomes. Dense, compacted soil acts like a vise around developing ginger, which leads to skinny, stringy pieces instead of plump knobs. Plant positioning inside the container also influences yield. Place pieces a few inches from the wall of the pot, not right against it. When rhizomes hit a hard boundary too soon, they curl and crowd each other. Giving them a bit of interior runway lets them branch naturally and form more harvestable fingers. Consider your growth plan over the season. One smart approach is to start with the pot half filled, then add soil in thin layers as the plant grows. This creates fresh space above the original pieces for new rhizomes to form, keeps them lightly covered, and prevents sun exposure that can toughen skin. It also supports that gradual horizontal spread ginger prefers. If you are planting in the ground instead of a container, think of space the same way. A wide bed with at least a foot of loosened depth lets you place pieces 6 to 8 inches apart with room to expand. Raised beds are excellent because they drain well and warm up quickly, both of which encourage underground growth rather than top-heavy foliage. Material choice for containers can help too. Fabric pots breathe well and reduce the risk of waterlogged soil. Heavy ceramic holds temperature steady, which ginger appreciates. Plastic is fine if it has ample drainage and you avoid overwatering. Whatever you choose, size is the non-negotiable factor. If your past ginger looked lush but yielded little, upgrading to a wider, deeper container is one of the fastest fixes you can make. It gives the plant permission to do what you want most: build thick, flavorful ginger root. Give it space. Pair it with loose, breathable soil, and you will see the difference at harvest time. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more gardeners like yourself, who would also find it so helpful to avoid these mistakes. All right, let's keep going. The third reason many gardeners end up with small or underdeveloped ginger roots is harvesting too early. Ginger takes patience, and unlike quick crops such as lettuce or radishes, it needs a long growing season to mature properly. If you dig it up too soon, the plant hasn't had enough time to store nutrients and expand its roots, so you're left with thin, watery pieces that lack both size and flavor. Ginger needs about 8 to 10 months from planting to reach full maturity. During the first few months, most of the plant's energy goes into building strong leaves and stems. It's not until halfway through the season that it really begins to bulk up underground. Many gardeners see lush green leaves early on and assume it's time to harvest, but the visible growth above the soil is only part of the story. The key sign to watch for is yellowing leaves. As the season comes to an end, the plant naturally starts to slow down. The leaves will turn yellow and begin to dry at the tips, which means it's redirecting energy from the foliage back into the root system. This is the ideal time to harvest, because the ginger root is fully mature, dense, and full of flavor. If you prefer young, mild ginger for fresh eating, you can harvest smaller pieces after 4 to 5 months. But for thick, long-lasting roots, patience pays off. Mature ginger not only has more complex flavor, but also stores far better, letting you enjoy it for months after harvest. Harvesting too early can also confuse the plant's growth cycle. Each time you disturb the soil or remove parts of the root system too soon, it sets the plant back. The underground structure needs time to harden and stabilize before being handled. Digging early weakens what's left behind and may prevent you from reusing sections for future planting. Another common mistake is cutting back the foliage too soon. Those leaves are the plant's solar panels. They collect energy that is stored as starch in the roots. If you remove them before they've finished yellowing naturally, you cut off the energy supply that fuels root development. When you're ready to harvest, use a small hand fork or your hands to loosen the soil gently. Lift the clump carefully to avoid breaking the roots. You'll notice the difference immediately. The skin will be thicker and more aromatic, and the inside will have that firm, juicy snap that only mature ginger has. If you want a continuous supply, you can harvest part of the plant and leave some pieces in the soil, as long as conditions stay. warm and moist. Those leftover sections will sprout again. So if your ginger has been leafy but stingy with roots, the problem might simply be impatience. Give it time, let the leaves yellow, and harvest only when the plant tells you it's ready. Waiting those extra few weeks or months can make all the difference between a small handful of roots and a full, rewarding harvest. The fourth reason your ginger grows lots of leaves but not much usable root is light. Ginger loves bright conditions, but it does not want harsh, all-day, direct sun. In too much direct light, the plant spends energy on survival, making more leaves to shade itself, losing moisture through those leaves. Underground growth slows, and your harvest stays small. Aim for bright, indirect light or gentle, filtered sun. Outdoors, a spot with morning sun and afternoon shade works very well. Dappled light under a light canopy is excellent. Indoors, place the pot near a bright window with a sheer curtain so the plant gets plenty of brightness without the burn. This balance gives the leaves enough energy to feed the roots while keeping stress low. Deep shade is a different problem. With too little light, ginger stretches and becomes leggy. The leaves get larger and thinner as the plant tries to capture more light, and the underground parts stall. If you notice long inner nodes, pale foliage, and slow clump expansion, the plant is telling you it needs more brightness. Think of light for ginger as quality rather than brute force. Gentle, long brightness beats short, intense blasts. In hot summers, the leaves can scorch in open afternoon sun. Scorched leaves reduce photosynthesis, which means fewer carbohydrates moving down to form new ginger. A light mulch and a bit of afternoon shade keep the canopy cooler and the soil conditions steady, both of which favor root building. Container growers have extra tools. Rotate the pot every couple of weeks so all sides receive similar light. Use reflective surfaces nearby, such as a pale wall or a light-colored fence, to bounce brightness toward the plant without raising heat. If a porch or tree provides mottled shade, position the pot where it gets consistent, bright ambient light through most of the day. For indoor gardeners in dim rooms, a modest supplemental light can help. A simple full-spectrum LED placed at a comfortable distance can extend bright hours without overheating the leaves. You do not need intense grow tent conditions. The goal is steady brightness that keeps the leaves photosynthesizing and the plant relaxed. Watch the plant's signals. Upright, firm leaves with a medium green color indicate a good balance. Curling, crisp edges, and a bleached look suggest too much direct sun and heat. Very dark green, very large leaves with long stems often mean the plant is chasing light. Adjust placement gradually, then give the plant a week or two to respond before making more changes. Seasonal shifts matter. As the sun angle changes, spring location can become harsh by midsummer. Move the container a few feet to recapture that gentle, bright window. In the ground, you can create filtered light with a simple trellis panel, or by placing ginger on the east side of a taller plant that casts protective shade after midday. The simple rule is this: give ginger bright, indirect light for most of the day. Protect it from strong afternoon sun, and avoid deep shade. When the light is right, the leaves power the plant without stress, and the energy is stored where you want it, in thick, flavorful ginger root. The fifth reason your ginger grows lots of leaves but very little usable root is watering. Ginger likes steady moisture, not wet feet. When soil stays soggy, the plant shifts energy into leaf production and survival, rather than building thick, healthy ginger root. Too little water is also a problem, since dry spells stall growth and can cause tips to brown and new pieces to abort. Aim for consistently moist, well-drained soil. A simple rule is to water when the top inch feels dry to the touch. If it still feels cool and slightly damp, wait a day and check again. This rhythm keeps oxygen in the root zone, which is essential for forming dense, flavorful ginger. Drainage is non-negotiable. Use a pot with several holes and never let the container sit in a water-filled saucer. If you use a saucer, empty it after watering. Pot feet or small spacers under the container allow excess water to escape and keep the drain holes clear. In the ground, plant where water does not pool after rain. Soil texture drives water behavior. A fluffy mix that includes quality potting soil with added perlite or pine bark fines allows water to move through while holding gentle, even moisture. Heavy mixes with lots of fine particles hold water too tightly and starve the underground stems of air. If your soil compacts easily, lighten it before planting rather than trying to fix it after the pot is full. Water deeply and less often rather than a little every day. A thorough soak encourages the moisture to reach the full root zone. Then a pause allows the surface to dry slightly, which signals roots to grow and explore. Frequent shallow sips keep the top layer wet and the lower zone stale, which favors rot and fungus. Mulch helps maintain the right moisture curve. A thin layer of fine mulch on top, such as shredded leaves or cocoa chips, slows evaporation and keeps surface temperatures even. Keep mulch slightly back from the stems to prevent constant damp contact that can encourage stem rot. Watch the plant's signals. Limp, thin leaves that perk up quickly after watering indicate you are letting the soil get a bit too dry between cycles. Yellowing from the bottom up, with soft stems and a musty smell from the pot, points to overwatering. If that happens, improve airflow, loosen the surface gently, and allow a longer dry down period before the next watering. Season and location matter. In warm, bright weather, ginger uses more water. In cool spells or low light, it uses less. Indoors, heating and air conditioning can dry or dampen the air, so check the soil rather than following a calendar. Morning watering is best because the plant starts the day hydrated and the foliage dries by evening. Self-watering containers can work if the mix is light and the reservoir is not constantly topped off. Allow the wicking zone to dry slightly now and then, so the root zone can breathe. If your climate is very humid, consider a standard pot with free drainage instead. Consistent moisture with excellent drainage is the sweet spot. Keep the soil evenly moist, keep air in the root zone, and your ginger will channel energy into building thick, harvest-worthy ginger root rather than endless leaves. The sixth reason ginger gives you lots of leaves but not much harvest is soil quality and nutrition. Ginger root forms best in loose, airy soil that drains well and holds gentle, even moisture. Heavy mixes squeeze the underground stems, while poor fertility or the wrong nutrient balance pushes the plant to make foliage instead of storage tissue. Start with a light, well-draining base. A quality potting mix works well, especially if you blend in something that keeps air pockets open, such as perlite or pine bark fines. Materials that compact easily reduce oxygen around the developing ginger root. When oxygen is low, the plant protects itself by maintaining leaves rather than investing in thick rhizomes. pH matters too. Ginger prefers slightly acidic to neutral conditions, roughly 6.0 to 7.0. In that range, nutrients are more available, especially phosphorus and potassium, which support root development and overall vigor. If the pH drifts very low or very high, the plant may look green for a while, but still refuse to bulk up underground. Nitrogen is the biggest balancing act. Too much nitrogen grows beautiful leaves and long stems, but it delays and sometimes reduces ginger root formation. You are aiming for steady growth with moderate foliage, not soft, lush leaves that collapse in heat. Choose a balanced fertilizer, or one that is a bit lower in nitrogen and higher in phosphorus and potassium, such as a 5-10-10. Use it sparingly. A light monthly feeding during active growth is plenty for most container plants. Organic options can work very well. Mature compost adds a gentle nutrient baseline and improves structure, but avoid heavy amounts of fresh manure. That can spike salts and nitrogen, which leads to leafiness and can burn tender tissues. A small amount of composted bark or leaf mold helps water move through the mix while keeping it evenly moist. Micronutrients are the quiet helpers. Magnesium, iron, and manganese support healthy leaves that power the plant without forcing it into excessive top growth. If you notice pale new leaves with green veins, you may be looking at an iron issue. If older leaves yellow between the veins, magnesium can be the culprit. A gentle, complete feed typically supplies enough of these, and a light top-up now and then is better than a heavy dose. Containers need occasional rinsing. Over time, fertilizers can leave salts near the surface, especially in warm weather. If you see a crust on the soil or pot rim, give the mix a thorough watering that allows extra liquid to drain away. That flush helps reset the root zone and prevents tip burn and slow decline. Watch for signals from the plant. Very dark, soft leaves that grow quickly often mean you are feeding too much nitrogen. Small leaves, slow clump expansion, and dull color can indicate the plant is hungry or the pH is off. Correct one thing at a time and give the plant a week or two to respond before making another change. Think of soil and nutrients as the steering wheel for ginger. A loose, breathable mix and a gentle, balanced feeding program keep energy flowing to the ginger root rather than to endless leaves. Get the structure right, keep the nutrition moderate and steady, and you give the plant every reason to build a heavy, flavorful harvest. The seventh reason your ginger grows plenty of leaves but not much usable root is the wrong climate around the plant. Ginger is a tropical crop at heart. It wants steady warmth and comfortable humidity for months. When temperatures swing cool or the air stays very dry, the plant protects itself by maintaining foliage and slowing underground growth, which means small harvests. Aim for a daytime range of about 70 to 85 degrees, which is roughly 21 to 29 degrees. Nights can run a little cooler, but try to keep them above 60 degrees, which is about 16 degrees. Prolonged dips below that mark slow photosynthesis, reduce starch production, and delay ginger root formation. A brief cool night will not ruin the crop, but repeated cool spells add up and cost you size at harvest. Frost is a hard stop. If frost is expected, move containers under cover or bring them indoors. Humidity helps the leaf canopy do its job efficiently. Ginger enjoys moderate to high humidity, which keeps leaves flexible and photosynthesizing without losing too much water. In very dry air, leaves transpire quickly, the plant drinks more, and energy shifts toward survival. That stress often shows up later as a thin harvest. Indoors, you can raise local humidity with a shallow pebble tray under the pot, placed so the container sits above the water rather than in it. Grouping plants together also creates a small pocket of moisture air. Warmth without airflow can invite trouble, so balance humidity with gentle movement of air. Stagnant, humid corners encourage fungal issues on stems and soil. A little air circulation keeps the leaf surfaces dry after routine care and helps the plants stay comfortable. Outdoors, a lightly sheltered spot that still catches a soft breeze is ideal. Indoors, a small fan on a low setting across the room keeps air fresh without chilling the plant. Soil temperature matters too. Ginger root responds to a warm root zone. Containers, the mix can cool down faster than the surrounding air. Dark, thin pots on a cold patio bleed heat away from the root zone. If your nights run cool, consider a thicker pot, a light-colored container that reflects heat, or placing the container on an insulating surface rather than bare concrete. A light mulch on top of the soil also evens out temperature and slows evaporation. Seasonal timing is another lever. In cooler climates, start ginger indoors when household temperatures are steady, then move it outside, once nights are reliably warm. In hot climates, protect the plant from scorching late afternoon sun, which can overheat the canopy, while the soil remains warm. That combination keeps energy flowing to the ginger root without stressing the leaves. Watch the signals. Curled leaf edges, a dull olive color, and stalled new shoots often point to cool or very dry conditions. Yellowing from the base with soft tissues can point to warm but stagnant air and moisture that lingers too long. Adjust one factor at a time so you can see what helps most. A slightly warmer location, a touch more humidity, or a little extra airflow can turn a stressed clump into a steady builder of thick, flavorful ginger root. Keep the climate gentle and steady. Warm days, mild nights, comfortable humidity, and light airflow create the calm environment ginger needs to store energy below the surface. When those pieces are in place, you will see the payoff at harvest. The eighth reason your ginger produces lots of leaves but not much usable root is an overcrowded canopy. A very dense top can trap humidity, shade itself, and funnel energy into maintaining leaves instead of building thick ginger root. Thoughtful, selective trimming can help redirect growth, but it must be done carefully so you keep the plant's solar panels working. Think of trimming as fine-tuning, not a makeover. Remove only older outer leaves that are yellowing, torn, or rubbing against neighbors. Aim to take no more than 20 to 30% of the total foliage at one time. This keeps photosynthesis strong while improving light penetration and airflow through the clump. After a light tidy, the remaining leaves can work more efficiently, which supports better underground storage. Timing matters. Wait until the plant is actively growing and well established, usually a few months after planting. Trimming right after sprouting shocks the plant when it has the least energy reserves. Avoid heavy cuts during heat waves or right after repotting. Give the plant a stable week with good moisture and gentle light to recover after any pruning. Use clean, sharp scissors or pruners. Wipe blades with a bit of alcohol before you start and if you move between plants. Make smooth cuts close to the stem without nicking nearby tissues. Remove leaves that consistently droop onto the soil, since they hold moisture against the crown and can invite rot. Also, thin, crowded center leaves that prevent air from flowing through the middle of the plant. Let the plant guide you. If leaves are tall, floppy, and shading each other, a small reduction helps. If leaves are upright, moderately spaced, and a healthy medium green, trimming may not be needed. Remember that each leaf you keep is a factory sending starch down to the ginger root. The goal is balance, not minimal foliage. Improve conditions alongside trimming. Increase gentle airflow so surface is dry after watering. Adjust light so the plant gets bright. Indirect conditions rather than harsh afternoon sun or deep shade. Check nutrition. Excess nitrogen will keep pushing soft, lush leaves. A fertilizer with lower nitrogen and a bit more phosphorus and potassium calms top growth and favors storage below. Consider spacing. In containers with multiple pieces, a crowded pot can mimic a jungle. If you find yourself trimming repeatedly just to keep leaves from smothering each other, you may be trying to grow too much in one pot. Dividing the clump or moving a few pieces to a second container is often a better fix than constant pruning. Watch for stress signals after trimming. Leaves should perk up and stand more freely within a few days. If you see wilting, sun scorch, or stalled growth, you removed too much or changed conditions too quickly. Shade the plant lightly for a day or two, water on your normal schedule, and resume steady care. Selective trimming is optional, but it can be useful when the canopy gets unruly. Keep it light, keep it clean, and pair it with better airflow, proper light, and moderated feeding. When the top is balanced, the plant spends less energy on leaf maintenance and more on what you want most: thick, flavorful ginger root. The ninth reason your ginger stays leafy but skimps on usable root is stress from pests or diseases. Even light pressure can sap energy, forcing the plant to repair leaves instead of building thick ginger root. The trick is early detection and gentle, consistent control that keeps the canopy healthy and the root zone clean. Start with regular checks. Look under leaves and along stems for tiny clusters of pests. Aphids gather in soft new growth and leave behind sticky honeydew. Spider mites create fine speckling on leaves and faint webbing in dry conditions. Mealybugs look like small bits of cotton tucked into leaf bases. Thrips scrape leaf surfaces, leaving silvery streaks. Any of these can slow photosynthesis and weaken the plant over time. Fungal and bacterial problems show up differently. Yellowing that begins as patches, soft stems at the base, or a musty smell from the pot point to rot. Powdery mildew looks like a white dusting on leaves, common where airflow is low and humidity sits on the foliage. Leaf spot appears as small brown circles that expand slowly. In all cases, the plant invests energy in defense rather than storage, which keeps harvests small. Prevention is the best strategy. Keep leaves dry after watering. Water the soil, not the foliage. Improve airflow around the plant so surfaces do not stay damp. Space pieces generously in containers and thin only when needed to avoid a dense, stagnant canopy. A light mulch helps regulate soil moisture without holding water against stems. If pests appear, act promptly with gentle methods. A strong stream of water dislodges aphids and mites outdoors. Wipe mealybugs off with a cotton swab dipped in alcohol, taking care not to soak tissues. For broader coverage, neem oil or an insecticidal soap applied in the evening can reduce populations without harsh residues. Repeat every 5 to 7 days for a couple of cycles to catch new hatchlings. Always test a small area first and avoid spraying in hot, direct sun. For fungal issues, start by correcting conditions. Increase airflow, allow a slightly longer dry down between waterings, and remove heavily spotted leaves. A light top dressing of fresh, dry mix can help if the soil surface stays slimy. Cinnamon powder on small crown wounds can discourage surface fungi in home settings. If powdery mildew persists, a mild bicarbonate spray can shift leaf surface pH and slow spread. Again, test first and keep applications light. Check the roots if decline continues. Gently slide the plant from the pot and inspect the rhizomes. Healthy ginger root is firm and aromatic. Soft, dark sections indicate rot. Trim away mushy parts with a clean blade. Dust the cut with a little dry sulfur or cinnamon and repot in a fresh, airy mix. Improve drainage and watering rhythm going forward. Quarantine new plants. Many pest problems arrive from nearby greenery. Keep new additions a short distance away for a couple of weeks and watch for hitchhikers before placing them with your ginger. The goal is a calm, steady environment where leaves can do their job without constant repair. Catch small problems early, correct the conditions that allowed them, and keep treatments gentle. Healthy leaves feed the underground harvest. Protect them, and the plant will channel energy into thick, flavorful ginger root. The 10th reason your ginger grows lots of leaves but not much usable root is a lack of patience and consistency. Ginger is not a quick crop. It builds momentum slowly, then packs on size later in the season. If you change conditions too often, disturb the pot, or expect quick results. The plant spends energy adapting instead of storing starch in the ginger root. Think in seasons, not weeks. From planting to a mature harvest usually takes 8 to 10 months. The first 2 to 3 months are about establishing shoots and leaves. Months 4 to 6 are about quiet expansion underground. Months 7 to 10 are when most of the thickening happens. If you tug at the plant or keep digging to check progress, you interrupt that rhythm and slow development. Set a simple routine and stick to it. Water when the top inch of soil feels dry. Feed lightly once a month during active growth with a balanced or low nitrogen fertilizer. Keep the light bright but not harsh. Maintain warm temperatures and comfortable humidity. Small, steady habits beat big, occasional adjustments. Avoid overmanaging. Constantly moving the pot, changing fertilizers, or swinging between wet and dry soil forces the plant to cope rather than grow. Ginger root prefers a calm environment. If you make a change, make only one at a time and give the plant at least a week or two to respond before making another. Resist the urge to repot mid-season. Every repot resets the root zone and costs time. If you must adjust soil, top dress gently with a light, airy mix and resume normal care. Save major divisions and repotting for the end of the season, or just before a new planting cycle when the plant is naturally slowing down. Understand what early success looks like. A strong canopy is not a failure. Those leaves are the engine that powers underground storage later. As long as the foliage is healthy, upright, and medium green, you are building the foundation for a heavy harvest. The bulk comes later, after the plant has banked enough energy to thicken the rhizomes. Track your care. A small notebook or phone note with planting date, first sprout date, feeding days, and any changes you make prevents guesswork. When you know you planted in April, for example, it is easier to accept that October or December is a realistic harvest window, rather than digging in August and wondering why the pieces are thin. Protect consistency from outside surprises. If a heat wave arrives, provide afternoon shade and keep moisture steady. If a cool spell hits, bring containers to a warmer spot at night. These gentle buffers keep the plant on track without dramatic shifts. Finally, let the plant signal harvest time. When leaves begin to yellow naturally and growth slows, that is your cue. If you want a small taste earlier, harvest a side section and leave the rest to continue thickening. That way you satisfy curiosity without sacrificing the main harvest. Patience and consistency turn leafy plants into full baskets of ginger root. Keep conditions steady, avoid needless disturbances, and give the season time to work. The reward for calm, regular care is a dense, aromatic, and abundant harvest. Here is a simple technique that can noticeably boost your ginger harvest. Periodically hill up a thin layer of loose soil around the base of the plant as it grows. Ginger develops horizontally. By gently adding 1 to 2 inches of mix over time, you create extra real estate for new pieces to expand, and you keep any exposed sections covered and protected. Why it works. In nature, fallen leaves and light organic matter slowly blanket the soil surface. Ginger takes advantage of that soft layer by producing fresh growth right where the new material settles. Hilling mimics that process in a controlled way. It supports horizontal expansion, prevents green, sun-exposed skin from toughening, and reduces moisture swings at the surface where new growth begins. What to use? Choose a light, airy blend rather than dense garden soil. A quality potting mix with a little perlite, coco coir, or fine bark keeps the zone breathable and drains well. The goal is to invite growth, not to cap it with a heavy crust. If your base mix already feels open and fluffy, use the same blend for consistency. When to start? Begin once your plant is actively growing and has several healthy shoots. You want a strong canopy collecting energy before you invite more underground expansion. Add a thin layer at a time. Think 1 inch, then wait a few weeks. If new shoulders begin to peek through again, add another modest layer. Small additions are safer than one deep dump of mix. How it helps day to day. Hilling shields tender tissues from sun scorch and temperature spikes. It smooths out short dry spells by slowing evaporation at the surface. It also discourages weeds that try to sprout right at the crown. Each of these small advantages supports steady storage growth rather than a constant cycle of stress and recovery. A few precautions. Do not bury the leafy stems. Keep the new mix around the base and over any exposed ginger, but stop short of mounding over the green shoots. Avoid heavy, wet material that compacts. If the surface ever feels sealed or sour, fluff it gently with your fingers to reopen air spaces. After each light addition, Water just enough to settle the mix. You are aiming for contact, not a soggy cap. Pair hilling with good spacing. If your container is crowded, new growth will press against neighbors instead of filling the fresh layer. A roomy pot and an airy surface invite branching, so you grow more harvestable fingers rather than a few cramped pieces. Remember that nutrition drives behavior too. Keep feeding moderate and balanced so the plant invests in storage rather than a new wave of soft leaves. Use hilling as a finish line tool. In the last months, as leaves begin to slow and some yellowing appears, a final light layer can protect swelling pieces and keep them clean for harvest. When you eventually lift the plant, you will often find that the thickest, freshest growth formed in the newest, loosest material at the top of the root zone. This one habit delivers two big benefits. It gives your ginger extra room to expand, and it protects new growth so it stays tender and vigorous. Add a little, watch the plant respond, and repeat as needed. It is simple, gentle, and very effective for turning healthy foliage into heavy, flavorful ginger root. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.